What's up, y'all? Hit that like button and subscribe. Another episode of the Focus Daily Show. I'm gonna start off this show with a story about events that occurred to me. I know I speak about this being season 2 of the Focus Daily Show, and also at the same time speak about how I'm still kind of nervous and new to this. Well, in actuality, I did a whole year of this show over on Facebook. And when I first began the show, I was nervous then too. One day something just hit me in my chest. Wow. And then I heard the voice of God, and it was like, just listen to me and do what I say. So, I went through that situation and became closer and closer with God. But to move on with the story, on the first episode that I actually got on the internet and began this podcast, Facebook was attempting to keep me from doing this podcast. Every time I pushed the live button, it just wouldn't go live. So then that same little voice told me, hold on. And about 15, 20 minutes went by. And then next thing I know, that was the day that for the first time, Facebook completely crashed. Think about that. So I'm saying all that to say, chill out. Let the Lord will be done. Cut it out. So on the episode that I did yesterday, we spoke about the reasons why God would let his people suffer. And we spoke about the positive aspects of listening to the commandments of God. But unfortunately, the episode was struck down and blocked. But we're not going to repeat that. We're going to go on straight to episode 2. The curses of not allowing God's will to be done. The curses of not listening to God. So, okay, here we go. Let's get into it. We're in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 15. The curses of not for disobedience to God. Hold on one second. Had to get my lighter. We can get into this. Once again, hit that like button and subscribe. Support the channel. Cash App, Patreon at Focus Daily TV, where we can keep on bringing you this enlightening, spiritually awakening information. Verse 15. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God and do not carefully follow all his commands and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. Okay, at this moment, it's time to put your discernment hat on. A lot of people speculate on who these chosen people are the Bible speaks of. A certain group of people claim themselves to be the chosen people. But through this reading today, if you use your discernment and compare it to history, there's only one group of people who match this description. And during this reading today, those group of people should become apparent as the ones that biblical prophecy speak about. Yes, the Afro-Americans. Only that group of people fit this description perfectly. You will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. From city to city, state to state, town to town, county to county, the situation remains the same. Although in some of these democratic metropolises, the illusion of equality is greater than in rural areas, but nonetheless, it seems that the Afro-Americans are cursed among all other nations of this world. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land and the calves of your herds and lambs and flocks. Afro-Americans may not be the majority of people on public assistance, but as a whole, we do struggle with keeping our baskets and kneading troughs full. We do tend to lean to public assistance for the simple necessities like food, clothing, and shelter. This is just evidence of who it speaks of. No other nation in the world goes through these struggles. Why in some third world countries they might not be as economically empowered as America, but at the same time they still have their own land. They're still in control of their own country and their own political situations. While here in America, the Afro-Americans are, let's just read on. You will be cursed when you come in and cursed when you go out. From the moment we're born, especially so-called black males, we're considered criminals. We're considered less than. We considered a walking mat. Even our children get gunned down in certain situations. So I got to be kind of, what's the word? I got to delegate and use my words correctly, because I know YouTube is waiting to catch me slipping with anything I say so they can strike down this information. But my point being, due to things like the 94 crime bill, which labeled the black man as super predator, we became cursed when we come in and cursed when we go out. The Lord will send on you curses, confusion, and rebuke in everything you put your hands to until you are destroyed and come to sudden ruin because of the evil you have done in forsaking him. So because we chose to follow foreign influence and foreign ideologies introduced biblically by the king of Babylon, we suffer these curses. We're allowed to go through injustice and persecution and be murdered and slaughtered, and simple things like we're not even allowed to speak freely without strikes and such things. But this is all because we turned our backs on the Lord and we lost sight of his glory and his predominance. The Lord will plague you with diseases until he has destroyed you from the land you are entering to possess. So things like HIV, high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes, these are certain diseases that plague the Afro-American people predominantly. These plagues are not by circumstances. It is part of the law, which is written right here that I'm presenting to you. Once we begin to follow the law, the curse will be lifted. The good news is Jesus Christ died and paid the ransom for this curse to be removed from us. But in order to receive the payment and the blessings that come with the payment, we must return back to the laws of God, return back to the word, return back to his glory, and accept his son, Jesus Christ, as king and head of the body. The Lord will strike you with wasting disease, with fever and inflammation, with scorching heat and drought, with blight and mildew, and will plague you until you perish. So when people ask, if God is real, Why would he let this and this and this and this and this? This is precisely the reason why. Because we refuse to follow his commandments and we follow the ways of the world. The ways that was introduced to us by foreign ideological subversion. But the Focus Daily TV is here to bring you back. It is not about me. This is not about me. Let's get that straight. When I say Focus Daily TV, this is about the information that I'm presenting, the truth that I'm exposing to the dead in a seeking an opportunity to awaken a few people and to bring people back home to the Lord, before it's too late. The sky over your head will be bronze, the ground beneath you, iron. The Lord will rain on your country until dust and powder, into dust and powder, and it will come down from the skies until they are destroyed. Virtually, as Afro-Americans, we have been destroyed. While we're not completely corrupt and evil, we don't stand for anything as we should. The men of our nation and community don't rise up and become the leaders that God expects us to be. The hierarchy is God, man, woman, and the children. So the word of God and the truth comes through the men in our nation. But a lot of our men have failed to the wayside, whether it be through sexual immorality, worshiping other gods, foul behavior, murderers, selling drugs, everything that due to hip hop influence has become popularized within our culture and with our nation. We're going to speak about those things in depth, but right now I'm just here to give you the law. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will come at them from one direction, but flee in seven. You will become a thing of horror to all the kingdoms of the earth. So out of all the kingdoms / nations of the earth, let's use our discernment. Who fits this description? Who in this earth is considered a thing, a horror, not even worth receiving justice? Who has completely failed to oppression? Although times have advanced and oppression comes in different forms and slavery comes in different forms, which group of people fit this description? Not the so-called Jews. Trying to watch what I'm saying, YouTube. Those people are doing fine. They run media, television, radio. They're living like kings on this earth. They're not defeated by their enemies. And according to biblical prophecy, these people will not be released from this cursed situation until Christ comes to set people free. The first time Christ came, according to biblical prophecy, those same Pharisees or fake Jews wanted his head, wanted his death. So in order for biblical prophecy to be completed, he has to come and set the prisoners free. So if the prisoners still have not yet to be freed on his second coming, who could this be talking about? It's really narrowing it down. The Lord, okay. Your carcass will be food for all the birds, the wild animals, and there will be no one to frighten them away. The birds, the wild animals, those could be considered the foreigners, the invaders, the people who so-called enslaved us, the people who actually are oppressing us. It's speaking of the Holocaust that the Black Afro-Americans went through, the Black Holocaust. well, tens of millions of us were lynched, murdered, burned, torched. Our carcasses became food to all the birds and the wild animals. The Lord will afflict you with the boils of Egypt, and with tumors, festering sores, and the itch from which you cannot be cured. He's going to put us in such dire circumstances that it will be nothing that we could do as a people, despite their attempts to introduce other ideological subversion, such as the RBG movements, the I'm Black and I'm Proud, which had us screaming with pride that we are black, which in law means nothing. So despite those movements, we still were not able and will not be able to be free until, once again, we return back to the word of God, to the law, until we are able to accept Christ, Jesus, and his kingship over God's coming kingdom. Like the Lord's Prayer say, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom will come. The kingdom will come, and it will be done on earth as in heaven. Meaning this is going to happen right here in the real world. We will begin to see the world change as we return back to the word and to the law. The Lord will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion of mind. At midday, you will grope like a blind person in the dark. You will be unsuccessful in everything you do. Day after day, you will be oppressed, robbed, and no one will rescue you. Who does that sound like? What nation or ethnic group on earth does that sound like? Now, I understand that all people, melanated people, go through certain struggles, but like I said, those people from Africa, they got their own states, their own countries. They're in control of their own situation. Why it might not be prosperous as prosperous as it is in America, they still have their own. So it really zooms in and limits it down to one group of people. And that group of people, if you have your discernment cap on, looks like it can truly be the Afro-Americans. You will be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take her and rape her. All those the Django slave stories, what they did to the women, what did they do to our women? What are they doing to our women as we speak? I'm not trying to condone the R word. I'm just reading the Bible. You will build a house, but you will not live in it. According to the rumors of slavery, we built this nation from the sweat of our brow, through blood, sweat, and tears, but we still not even able to live here in peace. In 2023, oppression is a little more politically correct, but as you can see, the same atrocities that have been occurring for the last 400 plus years continue to occur with no repercussion. You will plant a vineyard, but you will not be able to enjoy its fruits. Even though, according to history, we built this nation through our blood, sweat, and tears, and it's the most prosperous nation on earth, we're barely able to enjoy its fruits. A person dang near has to sell their soul to have any type of success. That's wrong. But the reason this occurred is because we failed to stick to the commandments and decrees of the Father. Your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you will eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly taken from you and will not be returned. So by your ox, the strongest of us will be slaughtered right before our eyes. And it's basically like we won't have no reciprocity or joy from it. It's not saying that we should enjoy the murder, but no matter what occurs to us, we're still not receiving any joy. We're still not allowed to eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly taken from you. Even the foolish among us get the same treatment. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and no one will rescue them. Your holy people, your righteous, upstanding people, still were delivered unto the enemies, whether it be through oppression or simply being forced to work from sun up to sundown, basically for the duration of your life. No one will rescue them. Your sons and daughters will be given to another nation, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand. Due to Nazi communistic ideology being forced on our children from the moment they enter into grade school, we basically have given our children to another nation. Also, through things like birth certificates and registrations and social security numbers, we also have given our children over to the state. I'll go more in depth in that later, but right now, let's keep reading. A people that you do not know will eat what your land and labor produces. You will have nothing but cruel oppression all of your days. I mean, who fits that description? The sights you see will drive you mad. The Lord will afflict your knees and legs with painful boils that cannot be cured. You know, the Lord allowed it to be put on us. And we go through the worst of atrocities, the true Black Holocaust that occurred right here in America. The Nazis won World War II. We'll get into that later. The Lord will afflict your knees and legs with painful boils that cannot be cured, spreading from the soles of your feet to the top of your head. The Lord will drive you and the king you set over you to a nation unknown to you or your ancestors. At first, this used to be a sovereign kingdom until the beast arose from the sea in pirate ships. The Nina, Pina, and Santa Maria pilgrims rose from the sea as unknown forces and conquered us. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and gods of stone. You will become a thing of horror, a byword, and an object of ridicule among all the peoples where the Lord will drive you. A byword, a thing of horror, ridicule. Who does that sound like? You will sow much seed in the field, but you will harvest little, because locusts will devour it. Those locusts being the foreign invaders. They came through and took everything and placed us on public assistance and in public housing. The few of us who are able to rise out of that still are oppressed by bills, mortgage, simple things that the Lord provided us without the toil that we currently find ourselves entrapped in. All we have to do is just listen to his word. If you want to get a little bit more to this, go back up to the beginning of chapter 28 of Deuteronomy, and you will see the blessings that we once received and that we soon shall receive, once we get back to the law. You will plant vineyards and cultivate them, but you will not drink the wine or gather the grapes, because worms will eat you. The foreigners are those worms. The worms in the Big Apple. You will have olive trees throughout your country, but you will not use the oil because the olives will drop off. Don't the American eagle have olives in it, like olive leaves and arrows, something like that? You will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them because they will go into captivity. From the moment your children, our children, are born, they immediately are placed upon a document and given over to the authority of the state. On that piece of paper, that's a document or a doc. Once your child comes down the birth canal in the vessel that the Lord gave him, he immediately docks upon their legislation, their documents by the doctor, by the way. But more on that later. Swarms of locusts will take over all your trees and the crops of your land. The foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher and higher, and you will sink lower and lower and lower. Who is this talking about? Everybody else in the nation is rising higher and higher and higher. And which group of people are rising lower and lower and lower? But the reverse is about to be in effect. Stay tuned. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, and you will be the tail. All these curses will come on you. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God and observe the commands and decrees he gave you. They will be a sign of wonder and a wonder to you and your descendants forever. Once this word begins to be accepted by our people, and this law begins, and God's law begins to be accepted by us as a nation once again, miraculous things will begin to happen. That's soon. Stay tuned. Because you did not serve the Lord God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity. I may have said that in the reverse of what it was saying, but you know what I meant. Therefore, in hunger and thirst, in nakedness and dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. Who does that sound like? Now that one right there, Mexicans, Latinos, Hispanics kind of fit in right there too. I have to admit that. But, let's be real. Who does all of this describe? He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. He'll put burdens and oppression and depression and humiliation and ridicule. We become a byword. All of that will go down on this group of people until they are just completely destroyed and no longer look any type of way as to who they actually are, which are God's children. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth. North America, the kingdom of God. On the other side of the world, that's as far away as you can get. According to history, they came from the other side of the world to this world, and they destroyed the Native Americans, which is code word. By no means do they want us to realize that this was our nation, that this was our kingdom. So they use code words. And at one point, instead of being called Negro or Black or Afro-Americans or African-Americans, we were classified as Indians. Do the things like the Dawes Roll, the Indian Removal Act. We'll check more into that later. The Lord will bring against you from far away, from the ends of the earth. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, like an eagle. Like an eagle. What's on that dollar bill? Like an eagle swooping down, and a nation whose language you will not understand. These foreigners speak in law, legalese. They speak in crafty counsels and use crafty phrases and paragraphs, paperwork to whoop us. A nation whose language you will not understand. We don't understand the laws and what's occurring. That's the reason why we're in this situation, because God's law is the ultimate law. And once we understand that, as obviously, we wouldn't have fell victim to it. A fierce looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young. What does that sound like? They will devour the young of your livestock, the crops of your land, until you are destroyed. They will leave you no grain, new wine, or olive oil, nor any calves of your herds, or lambs of your flock, until you are ruined. They will lay siege to all the cities throughout your land until the high fortified walls in which you trust fall down. Until walls is like what you stand for, your morals, the things you're convicted to. They're going to knock all of that down. And now we don't stand for anything. Simple things like sexual immorality has become the law of the land. We don't even stand for simple stuff like the Rainbow Covenant. We didn't turn the Rainbow Covenant into something of perversion. And none of our men are rising up and saying anything. Given that if you do rise up, they're coming for you. But nonetheless, we should be fighting to our last breath for what's rightfully ours. This continent known as North America belongs to God's children, which are currently known as African Americans, which I refer to as Afro Americans. They will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God has given you. Tulsa, Oklahoma. That movie, what was that movie? Well, they went to the little city and burnt it down because they said the black dude raped the white girl. Rosewood. Those are examples of this verse right here. Google the Red Summer, and you'll see at the late 1800s and early 1900s, they began to slaughter Afro-American communities throughout the nation. Communities that they found that had avoided the invasion. Once they began to lay train tracks down and explore the nation, they found communities. Once the Pony Express and things like that began to move throughout the nation, they would find pockets of communities. And when they find them, they will besiege all the cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you. Because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of sons and daughters the Lord your God has given you. Okay, this is getting to people who are willing to sell their soul for celebrity and notoriety to rise up out of these conditions. In these secret society groups, the Illuminatis and all of that people speak of, they do such things. They eat children, they eat flesh in order to become what they consider success. I'm not going to go into depth in that. There's plenty out there about Freemason, Illuminati, Hollywood, chicanery. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother, or the wife he loves, or his surviving children. And he will not give to no one of them any of the flesh of his children that he is eating. That has kind of like a double meaning. Even the nicest of us walk around here trying to be gangster. It's just a part of the Afro-American culture, the hip-hop culture, where they ideologically subverted us with lyrics and beats to make us all prefer the criminal lifestyle rather than a righteous one. the most gentle and sensitive women among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the soles of her feet, will begrudge the husband she loves and her own sons and daughters. You know, our women will become loose. Girl got a girlfriend and things of that nature. You know, if we're being honest with us, we know how our culture is. We know how our women are. We know how our men are. And it's right there. We fit the description. The afterbirth of her womb and the children she bears. Go back, read that one more time, and think about which group of people align with this prophecy. The most gentle and sensitive women among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves, her own sons and daughters, the afterbirth from her womb and the children she bears. For in her dire need, she intends to eat them secretly because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities. Okay? For in her dire need, she intends to eat them secretly because of the suffering of your enemy. In the Afro-American community, our abortion rates are higher than our birth rate. Our women abort more children than we give birth to. God mad at that. I'm just leave it at that. That's what, that I don't know how much I can say before YouTube be like, let's stop it. So when I do that, that means, fill in the blank. If you do not carefully follow all the words of this law, which is written in this book, and do not revere this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, the Lord will send fearful plagues on you and your descendants, harsh and prolonged disasters, and severe and lingering illnesses. 2023, 2022, 2021, 2020, all in that gap. Y'all remember all the things that have occurred and still are occurring and all the things they introduced to us during this period. The Lord will also bring on every kind of sickness and disaster not recorded in the book of law until you are destroyed. You who were as numerous as the stars in the sky will be left but few in number because you do not obey the Lord. When I first began learning about this information, I just began to go outside and observe the differences between melanated cultures. And as I looked around, I didn't find no people that looked like me. And I'm like, where all the black people go? All I see is Africans, Hispanics, Asians, Hindus. Everywhere I go, dang near the only Afro-American I was seeing was me and my family. Where have all the original Afro-American people disappeared to? A lot of them in prison, but next time you go out, look around and check that shit out. That's what that right there. Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and increase in number, so it will please him to ruin and destroy you. You will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. Why, if God was real, why would he let this and why? Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations, from one end of the earth to the other. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone, which neither you nor your ancestors have known. Next thing you know, we walking around here talking about Allah, Kali Ma, Buddha, everybody want to have chakras and all of that Kali Ma system, demonic shit. This new culture, new age movement amongst our community got everybody deep into witchcraft and all of that. Among those nations, you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. There the Lord will give you an anxious mind, eyes weary with longing, and a despairing heart. You will live in constant suspense, filled with dread both day and night, never sure of your life. In the morning, you will say, if only it were evening, and in the evening, if only it were morning, because of the terror that will fill your hearts and the sights your eyes will see. From morning, noon, and night, which culture, which ethnic group, which kingdom matches this description? The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. There you will offer yourself for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. Now, according to current history or worldly history, we were put on boats, we were brought to Egypt, as in on the dollar bill, the pyramids and all of that on the back of dollar bill. This Egypt, American, is the Egypt of the Bible speaks of. We're not getting into that in depth, but just know that. Put on ships, made slaves to sell to your enemies. But the key thing is, but no one will buy you. We will voluntarily put ourselves into slavery and servitude without getting paid. But it's not the slavery that history speaks of. It doesn't occur in that type of manner. It occurred with paperwork. It occurred with legalese. It occurred with documents. And amendments, 13th and 14th. But we'll get more into that later. But until next time, Focus Daily, y'all.